The future is vegan.
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 Hi, my name is Jessica, and welcome to the newest episode of Jessica Talks Veganism. Today we will be talking about the easiest aspects of veganism. Inherently, veganism isn't easy because it goes against a lot of the norms and kind of cultural acceptances of our time today. So when you go vegan, it excludes a lot of the animal byproducts that we usually have, you know, the conventional egg and cheese sandwich in the mornings, or maybe that spread of cream cheese. It essentially gets rid of the normal elements of our life, and it creates a new lifestyle of substance and variation. So today I'll be talking about the easiest aspects of following a vegan diet. It's not really easy, but it really gets easier over time as in veganism, you really kind of develop a new sense of animal activism within yourself, a spirit that wants to go after it. And the spirit and the values that resonate most with you will make it easier to make those switches and make it easier to, you know, wake up in the morning, I want a vegan sandwich or something like that. So let's get started, I guess. So my first point I want to emphasize is a principle of substitution. So in veganism, a lot of people instantly gravitate towards the restriction mindset. You know, no cheese, no egg, none of that, no animal byproducts. But what if I tell you that you can substitute them for equally as tasty, equally as nutrient-dense alternatives on the market? So let's say you really, really, really love cheese, and you're like, oh no, I can't give up cheese, I can't go vegan. You can make small swaps in this multi-day plan, and this will essentially make it easier to go vegan. So they have vegan cheeses and whatnot. Okay, so you may be wondering what else is so easy about the vegan lifestyle. And another easy thing is about the easily accessible alternatives on the market. So, for instance, there's, as I said before, so many substitutes like vegan cheeses, vegan milks, so many great alternatives. So the alternatives on the market can not only be more cost-friendly in some cases, but they can also be more nutrient-dense in most cases, of course. So in the vegan diet, a lot of animal proteins specifically contain cholesterol and saturated fats, trans fats, my bad, that are not necessarily present or not as present in plant-based foods, like vegan foods, for instance. So this can make it easier and more accessible to other people in the market. And it's growing in demand. So this is something really viewers and shoppers, consumers should really take advantage of. So whether you've noticed the new vegan section in ShopRite or whatnot, you really understand that this growing demand is essentially making it easier, siding to transition into veganism, which is something that's definitely helped me out. It's definitely easier now to be a vegan than it was in the 1980s or some period like that when there weren't as many options on the market, and maybe there wasn't a sort of support system that I have today that may have been available then. So I have a community, SOS, I have a bunch of different really cool stuff about animal activism, and that kind of helps the whole transition a whole lot, it makes it a whole lot easier. So next, we're going to talk about the growing popularity. So the vegan lifestyle isn't exactly popular, if I should say. Or as I mentioned it in my last article, it's not a road by which many venture, but the vegan lifestyle is growing in popularity to most people's surprise. And if you've maybe heard over the last couple of years, the term vegan picking up, being used more readily. So I would say the growing in popularity is such a great aspect of veganism because, that causationally boosts the accessibility in different restaurants, supermarkets, whatnot. So it becomes easier to abide by the vegan lifestyle. And despite all of these dietary elements that I may emphasize, the vegan lifestyle isn't entirely dietary. It also deals with the lifestyle component, how we dress, how we believe in things. It's definitely a mindset, as much as anything, because it's the way that you perceive animals and, a lifestyle and way of living that excludes harm in any way that we can. So whether that's choosing the option that best aligns with our morals, there's no ideal vegan, and we can't all be 100% vegan all the time because, inherently there is an element of life that is lost through everyday life, and that's something out of our control. But we can do with veganism is put forth our best efforts. All we can do is give our best every day. And with veganism, that essentially is what the lifestyle emulates. So when I'm doing the best I can, that's my vegan lifestyle. That's what it looks like for me. It's not going to look the same for somebody else, but we do have a sharing of moral values against the exploitation of animals and whatnot. But it's definitely an interesting question to explore. So with the growing in popularity, that's an inherently great thing. Next, we can talk about the strategically it can be cheaper point. So I love lots of vegan alternatives, and a lot of negative points that people bring out is that vegan foods can be a lot more costly, a lot more expensive. But in most cases, this isn't actually true. It depends on how you orient your vegan lifestyle. So if you, I would say mostly when I say orient your lifestyle, like how you break up and get your carbs, proteins, whatnot. Because if you get your proteins from the way I used to orient my veganism, when I first went vegan, I used to have a lot of lentils, beans for my protein, my carbs, and I used to post that all the time. Like I think I showed on one of my posts an array of my Thanksgiving dinner, and it had a lot of lentils, a lot of string beans, a lot of fun stuff, and I think I baked something fun that I had on the side. It was probably like a blueberry scone or something. But it was really yummy, and I showed my array of foods. And with my lentils and whatnot, I felt very full in the beginning of my veganism because with a lot of these veggies, they're higher in fiber. So it's harder. It essentially satiates you more. So it's harder to fill up on more calories, if that makes any sense. So strategically, when you buy beans, lentils, and whatever you may go for, if you don't really go for the processed stuff like the Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers, that can easily add up in price. Like at Whole Foods, I know that one of the patties for the plant-based ones are like $5.99 for two, which is really expensive. So if you choose items that are like canned and really and you can buy in bulk, that's a lot more cost-friendly. And you do get that protein, you do get the carbs on the vegan lifestyle. And it's not starvation, as people say. It really isn't. Do I look like I'm dying? No. So I think it's working for me on a personal example. You just got to be smart with your decisions, and I think it could work for anyone, honestly. Next, I talked a little bit about it, to put a little disclaimer in there, about what I meant by it works for everyone. Because with people that have struggled or whatnot with eating disorders, stuff like that, there may be like an asterisk kind of next to it. So I emphasized on that a little bit more in one of my articles about NIDA awareness. So I would check that out if you're more interested in that. But for the vast majority, I would say my point kind of stands. So next, I'm going to talk about with the alternatives, it can most resemble the Omni Diet. So what is the Omni Diet, Jessica? The Omni Diet is what consuming eggs, whatnot, and milk is without consuming meat. I'm not saying that's inherently bad. That's not my decision, honestly. So I would say that the Omni Diet with my veganism mostly resembles that, more than it did in my vegetarianism. So how does that make sense? So vegetarianism is the exclusion of meat products or like items with gelatin that inherently are the body of the animal or the corpse. So for me, that was vegetarianism, and that felt somewhat more restrictive than my veganism. And you may be wondering why, but with my veganism, I actually discovered a larger variety of foods, and I feel like I can explore more options. Like before, I used to have this weird ethical belief that eating pseudo or like fake meat products was wrong because it inherently was like, it felt like somebody excluding meat for the purpose of like a dietary reason and not for ethics. So it felt like I was consuming, and it was a way to still get that like, to still get the satisfaction of consuming like the meat product with the taste and everything. The similarities that struck between the fake products was so blurred, the line between them, that I felt ethically questioned. So I was like, was this something I actually believe in? So I took those out of my diet for a really long time because it didn't align with my values. And I know that there are some people that still believe in this. That's okay. But it actually changing my opinion and incorporating a more dynamic aspect to my veganism has actually helped my diet become less restrictive. So when I decided that, these pseudo meat products are actually diminishing a demand for meat, dairy, whatnot, and they're providing somebody substitution that maybe is equal in taste or superior, and especially lacking trans fats and stuff like that, that's definitely a boost versus the other counterparts, lower in calories, whatnot. So that's definitely a move to go in the newfound direction. So when you incorporate these like Beyond Meat products, Impossible Burgers in moderation in your diet, that can be, resembling the Omni Diet, and that makes it easier for somebody transitioning into veganism. And for me, when I was transitioning to veganism, I used those too, the plant-based alternatives, and I still do. They're not transition foods really that help you get into veganism. They're really something that can help you emulate that Omni Diet, which is, something that we all live and whatnot. So it creates a sense of normalcy, whether you want a cheeseburger or something, but your friends are having the dairy one, you can still join in on something like that. And you won't lose that aspect if you have like vegan cheese or something. So, it's not about following a sort of orthorexic lifestyle, like no cheese, no, none of this, because of dietary reasons. Instead, it's not a dietary lifestyle, but it's one for ethics, if that makes any sense. So next, I want to talk a little bit about the labeling of vegan products. So that has become increasingly accessible for me and a lot of other vegans because there's a V label that's on the bottom of it, and it's certified by vegan.org, I believe. And it makes it super easy to identify if an item is vegan or not because they go through such a large database of products. So if I pick up something and I see that logo, it's instantly recognizable. I don't have to scan through. It honestly in all honesty and in a comical sense, if that's right, when I first became vegan, my reading speed, my number of words per minute, I would say probably tripled due to my ability to read the ingredients list to pick out that one ingredient, whether it's milk, eggs, somewhere hidden in there. It's honestly really weird that some products like a granola bar have 78 ingredients, and I've learned that through veganism, but looking for that one ingredient like egg whites hidden in the corner has really ramped up my reading speed, and it's honestly created a better writer and reader for me. So that's a perk, definitely. So with that, the labeling of vegan products is very easy for me now because I can see if something's vegan, not just put it down on the shelf. And sometimes if it doesn't, in the rare case, doesn't have that sticker on it or that little logo, some other company may have that vegan certification thing, or I can just search it up on Google. I don't have to go through the hassle of just finding a product, looking through that list maybe I thought I had to in the beginning of my veganism, but it's increasingly accessible. And with the rise in web databases, whatnot, resources, we can use it to our advantage in our veganism. So next, I wanted to talk about the undietary aspect of veganism, which is the clothing. So with many high-price retailers and companies, think big brands that are pretty outrageous. Oscar de la Renta, crazy stuff like that are super, super expensive. I would say most fabrics and furs are becoming increasingly banned that are not vegan or essentially perpetuate animal cruelty, if that's the right way to say it. So like for furs, it's becoming an increase in demand, an increase in popularity that people are understanding that fur is something that's wrong and whatnot. It's unethical. And a lot of corporations and companies are starting to understand this. And with this increase in popularity of veganism, these values, there's also an understanding of the industry's ability to support the people's opinions. So when these values are being increased, it's, an overall great thing. It's causational. It's not correlated. So I would say with most fabrics and furs being veganized on the market, I don't even think that's an actual verb, but I've been making it a verb. It's in my own dictionary, and when you use Google Docs or something, when you use a different word, it'll cast it in red whenever I use the verb veganize. And now I've added it to my own personal dictionary on Google Docs, Word, so now it just doesn't autocorrect it anymore. But so veganize is a verb. But that's essentially my clothing argument. So next, I would say that increasing public support against most popular, clothing fabrics, whatnot, is also, such as fur wearing and whatnot, are causationally boosting our values and our support system. So next, there is, So over time, when you go through your veganism, it actually gets easier. So I talked about this before, and I said it in the opposite way in my article. I recently published something about a week ago, and it was a 1-year letter anniversary to myself because I recently celebrated my 1-year vegan anniversary, which was so awesome. It was around Thanksgiving, and I went vegan due to a turkey trot race, which is really, really a weird reason, but honestly, worth it. And I don't think I would be here speaking in front of you guys today if I didn't run that race. So that's definitely great, but it does get easier over time, as much as I may say it doesn't, and it may feel like, you're stuck in this ground set, in this mindset. I would say you become more resilient in the values that you stand for. So whether it's, recognizing the pieces of your values in your everyday life, oh, that doesn't look right, that doesn't look wrong. And soon enough, the stuff that may have drawn you in for its appeal, egg and cheese sandwich, whatnot, the values that you resonate with, your why reason may outweigh the desire to go pick up that lunch special, that breakfast special, and to make something of your own that's similar, taste maybe even superior. And you don't have that side of guilt, or, not even guilt. I would just say that side of consciousness hanging over you. So I would say staying consistent in your values, it eventually strengthens over your veganism. And over time, it will get easier, and your why reason will strengthen, hence building the easiness, building a sense of easiness into your veganism. So yeah, initially, actually, with the easiness, I would actually like to elaborate on that. So in the beginning of my veganism, I made really elaborate meals that were lentils, beans, these I would have these really picturesque food meals, and I would take a picture of them, post them on my blog. But eventually that was really time consuming. So when I started using a couple of ingredients, my grocery bill actually went down substantially. I used to really, in the beginning of my veganism, my grocery bill was high, and then it went really, really low. And then it actually came back to a normal kind of stance where I'm at now with it. But with that, I stick with about 3 to 5 ingredients, and I can diversify them into a multitude of different recipes. So now I've become very good at varying. Is that a word? Changing up many different recipes, and with 3 to 5 ingredients, something like that. So next, so that, to elaborate on that again, it doesn't need to be complex, and small ingredient swaps are really all it takes to veganize a recipe. I made the best, and if I swear, my viewers should all check out my smoked paprika fries recipe. That was incredible. It was so much more nutrient dense than the typical alternative, and the only reason I did veganize it was because I know that in a lot of school cafeterias and whatnot, they can use a frying oil or whatnot that isn't inherently vegetarian or vegan. So I would say my substitute is more friendly in that aspect, but most of the time fries are vegan. Honestly, that's not really question thing too much, but that's something that I think you guys should check out, and it's really awesome. So next, I would say I mentioned in the beginning about the support system that you develop, and that makes it easier, essentially. So when you surround yourself with surrounding people, maybe even with the same values that resonate with you, it can be easier to stick with your veganism. And, you can find a sense of community in the actions you take, the demonstrations, whatnot. And maybe if you even want to take your activism to the next level, or, start your own hub, do something of the sort, whatever resonates with you, you can do that with them. And, maybe I would say even a joined collaboration or community is even can amplify the voice of your activism and make it even more meaningful, which is really awesome. So if you surround yourself with people that are also willing, maybe not vegan, vegetarian, whatnot, but are willing to accommodate and, are understanding of your values, that's great too. And I would say they're about equal. You don't need to surround yourself with only vegan friends. That sounds, very isolating, to be honest. But that also, I would love to have a different variation of, only vegan friends and a bunch of people that, maybe don't follow the same dietary lifestyle as me. Dietary lifestyles aren't everything. It just gives us the fuel to, carry on with our everyday lives, but it's not everything. That's why I say it's a lifestyle. So next, I would say, and finally, it really doesn't get easier. That contradicts my point earlier, but I would say you become even more resilient in the values you stand for. So it makes the choice seemingly obvious when you go to meal times. And, when I'm presented with a new choice and an adversity, veganism has honestly instilled a mental toughness within me. Not a mental toughness to go, oh, I'm better than that, I don't need to eat the cheese, but instead I can choose an option that satisfies me and also abides by the values in which I stand for. So you can find that dual kind of aspect in your diet, your lifestyle, and whatnot, and by every choice and action that you take. So thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. Bye.
The future is vegan.
Future is vegan.
The future is vegan.
The future is vegan.
The future is vegan.
Future is vegan.
The future is vegan.
The future is vegan.
The future is vegan.